So, have you heard the word childism? What does it mean? My name is Sarah Ockwell-Smith. I'm the author of the new book, Because I Said So, Why Society is Childist and How Breaking the Cycle of Discrimination Towards Children Can Change the World. So let me ask you a few questions. Who in your life, if you live in, say, England, like where I live, are you able to hit and it's legally okay? Can you hit your boss, friend, mother, partner, dog? Can you hit your child? Why is it okay in England that we are able to hit, smack, pop, tap, whatever you want to call it, our children, and it's okay? So there is a legal defence called reasonable punishment. If we perceive that our children have misbehaved enough that it is reasonable to hit them, then that's okay, we can legally hit them. But we can't say it's reasonable to discipline or punish our partners or our mums or any adults. So child rights here are significantly different to adult rights. But why is that? Child rights are human rights, they should be the same. But let me ask you more questions. Imagine that you were asleep and you woke up and your friend or your neighbour or your partner, whoever, has pierced your ears or pierced your nose, let's say. What would you think about that? How dare you've done this without my consent? Yet what happens to babies? You know, even a newborn baby, if they're asleep, we might take them and pierce their ears. Who gives consent there? Certainly not the babies. Why is it us as adults who feel that we should be able to modify a child's body without their consent because we find it cosmetically pleasing? But it doesn't just end there. What about if I said to you, what place, if you had done something wrong as an adult, would you be able to be held by yourself in solitary confinement? It would be a prison, right? And that would only happen if you'd committed a crime and done something really bad. But in schools, they do this thing called isolation or isolation booths, where children who are struggling with their behaviour for whatever reason, maybe they've got difficulties at home, maybe they've got an undiagnosed special educational need, you know, something will be happening. Children don't misbehave for no reason. And one of the ways that schools cope with them now is to put them into solitary confinement in an isolation booth or an isolation room where they will stay alone for half a day or a day. The idea here is that isolating them from their peers, shaming them and blaming them is meant to encourage them to behave better. In much the same way that we would put an adult into solitary confinement in prison, the difference here is that the adult's committed a criminal offence and the child is just being a child. Child rights, human rights, they're different. Why do we treat children as less when they're a child? But it doesn't stop there. So let me ask you, let's imagine that you are taking a bath and your partner comes in and snaps a photo of you and then puts it up on their Instagram account to sell a bubble bath. And they haven't told you, they haven't asked your consent, but now 500,000 people have seen you in your naked form selling bubble bath. And maybe you're okay with it now, but in 5 years' time, you want it taken down. Why is it okay to do that with children? Why is it okay to take their images, to share them on our social medias, to get clicks and likes and follows, and to get money if you're a parent or influencer? Where does this money go? Does it go to the children? Do they really understand the repercussions of their images being out in the world? What happens when they're 18 and they find the image and they're embarrassed about it, but it's been sold for money, so it's harder to take down? You know, there's so many questions. Another question, if you don't really understand politics as an adult, you're still able to vote. But a 16-year-old who can work full-time, who can be in the army, maybe is even doing politics A-level and they really understand politics, they can't vote for their future. A recent example was the Brexit vote. So what we also know from Brexit voting is if we had allowed 16 and 17-year-olds to vote, those people who arguably would have affected their future the most, it would have been a really different outcome. It's very likely we would never have left the European Union if 16 and 17-year-olds can vote. They have the biggest and longest future at stake. They understand politics, they work, they pay tax, they fight in our army. Why don't they get a say? Why do children have less of a say as adults? Why do we treat them differently? Why do we discriminate against them and celebrate it? Why, when we see images online of children meeting Santa dysregulated and crying, do we celebrate it and laugh at it if we wouldn't do the same to adults? These are questions we have to ask. If we want to change the world for the better, we must start treating children better. We must talk about childism and the discrimination of children. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to learn more, check out my new book, Because I Said So.